I will also start the audio recording then. All right, we are ready.
Awesome. Let's just give it a few minutes for more people to join.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. We see people starting to come in.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning or good evening, whenever you're joining us from.
Hello, Brittany Gunter. Good to see you.
Hello, Vidisha.
Hello, Vidisha. Where is Brittany joining us from?
Hello.
Oh, wow. That's far. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of signups from the US. We'll see how many are staying up late to join us.
We are doing the audio recording anyway, so I'm sure people will be able to listen to it later on as well.
Yeah, I think most of the people will watch it later as a recording, and we'll make it available for more people to watch. That's how most of the people get to see it.
It's good. I like the audio idea because I listen to a lot of my podcasts when I'm walking. I do distance walking. It's really great to listen to podcasts and stuff like that when you're walking, even audiobooks for that matter.
100%. Because you don't always want to have more screen time, right? But like just audio is not as disruptive.
And distance walking and listening to stuff is really cathartic and also kind of puts you in the zone where you're focusing on what you're listening to and just walking, and it's really I would say very meditative.
Yeah, very beneficial on a few fronts, 100%. I think while we're waiting for people to join, we could start, since most of the people will be listening to us later on while they're walking or going about their chores. Welcome everyone. We're very excited to have you today join our webinar on navigating this dynamic landscape of transformation. We're focusing mostly at the beauty industry, specifically L'Oreal, and specifically on the journey that Umesh went through during his time as Chief Transformation Officer at Indonesia. And he's not only steered the ship through very turbulent waters, but had charted a course of innovation and growth through transitioning from a traditional commerce to e-commerce. And I know that you have lots of stories to share about it. And we are super, super excited to find out how you set up that whole marketing towards a digital business, setting up new sales channels, and just exploring what this new world of selling and especially navigating it through COVID has been. Thank you so much for finding the time, Umesh. I'll give it to you to perhaps introduce it slightly wider. And to those of you who are joining, please put in any of the questions that you might have, and we'll make sure to find the time either during the webinar or towards the end to answer any of them. Over to you, Umesh.
Thank you very much, Regina. Thank you very much, everyone, those who have already joined, especially from really far off and late night and different time zones, but also thanks to those who will listen to this a little later. So a bit about myself. I'm Indian by nationality, as you might have guessed already. But I've lived all over Asia for a big part of my life. I was born in Bahrain, was raised there for many years before I went back to India for about 12 years. And then I've been in Southeast Asia for the past 24 years, having lived in Singapore, Thailand, and Indonesia. I'm a textile engineer by training, believe it or not, but then I got an MBA in marketing. And since then, I've worked in the consumer products industry, spent a considerable amount of time in Procter & Gamble, in GSK Consumer Healthcare. And now for the past 13 years, I've been with the world's largest beauty care company, L'Oreal. In L'Oreal, I've done jobs as the country manager of Thailand. I was then the country manager of Indonesia for 7 years, which is the part that I will be focusing on in telling the story of transformation. For the past 1 year, I was doing a role called Chief Transformation Officer. I was the first Chief Transformation Officer for our region, which extends from Morocco to New Zealand. So that's the 13 time zones across the region. In fact, I was in Morocco and Egypt last week. I was in Dubai the week before that, and I will be in Australia in the following week. So you can tell our region is pretty wide. I am now in charge of a very large tech transformation project called NEO, which is why the T-shirt, NEO Vision, and which is the implementation of SAP S/4HANA in the company. But beyond that, it's also the restructuring of the processes and unification of our databases and everything across the company. So we'll leave that for another day and talk about more interesting things today, like sales and marketing and e-commerce and all that. Before we go forward with the transformation story, I need to tell you a little bit about L'Oreal. I'm sure a lot of people listening are consumers of our products because we are the world's largest beauty care company. Number one in the world. We have not just L'Oreal, but 36 other global brands, everything from Garnier, Maybelline, YSL, Giorgio Armani, Valentino, Prada, La Roche-Posay, CeraVe, etc., etc. These are all our brands. If you've heard of a brand called Aesop, an Australian brand of personal care, that is the latest addition to our portfolio. We acquired that last year, so we are pretty end to end when it comes to beauty brands from mid-tier to top tier. We also operate in multiple channels. The way I say it is there is not a channel of beauty care where L'Oreal does not have a very major footprint. So it starts off obviously from traditional brick and mortar stores like convenience stores, mom and pop stores, department stores, etc. But we are very big in e-commerce, social commerce, and we also in some countries have a direct-to-consumer business. So we are in multiple channels. We operate in 5 major categories. That's skincare, hair care, hair color, makeup, and fragrances. And from a financial standpoint, we are, I think, the 60th most valuable company on earth. So that's just a little bit about us. We were born in France, but now we pride ourselves on pretty much being a very global company, especially in our portfolio. We have American brands like Maybelline and Kiehl's. We have French brands, of course, which is L'Oreal, Lancome, and many others over there. We also have a good portfolio of Asian brands. Style Nanda by 3CE, which is a Korean brand, belongs to us. We have Shu Uemura, which is a prestige makeup and skincare brand from Japan. We have a Chinese brand called Yusai, and now, of course, we have the Australian brand Aesop in our portfolio. So, everything across the range, across all countries in the world, with brands making their home in different parts of the world. So that's a little bit about L'Oreal. The beauty of L'Oreal is that we are 110 years old, and we have pretty much remained at the top of our game for the better part of that period. We've been number one in our business for a very long time. We have been known to be ahead of the curve when it comes to consumer products and beauty care pretty much for several decades. And the reason for that is that we have constantly transformed ourselves. First, from being a French company to a European company, then from being a European company to a worldwide giant in beauty care, from being a company that had a small portfolio of brand to having a very large portfolio of brands, from being mid-tier to top tier to luxury, from transforming from channels in drugstores and traditional trade to moving into department stores, having our own boutiques, then going into e-commerce and social commerce and everything. So we've pretty much stayed ahead of the game, and I like to say that we always have one eye on the road in terms of the future, while keeping our learnings pretty much in our bag about what we've picked up over these years, and that is something that has helped us transform. The other characteristics which is also very important for our company is that on the one hand, we are extremely proud of our successes. So, we feel very proud about the fact that we are number one. We're very valuable. We are growing market share. We are very profitable. We have so many brands, and et cetera, et cetera. But on the other hand, there is a part of the company that's almost paranoid about what is the change that will impact us in the future, and how can we be prepared for that? Many people say this about having visionary leadership, but the senior leadership of the company is really full of visionary leaders who are able to sense where the ball is going to be, rather than where the ball is playing right now, and make the right strategic investments and focus the company in that direction to make sure that we are kind of ahead of the curve, and we are number one, and we are the best at the new technologies that come into the market in the future. So it's been the same when the world transformed from traditional media to digital marketing. It was the same when the markets transformed from brick and mortar to first e-commerce and then omni-channel. It's also the same now as social commerce has become big. It's also the same on sustainability. It's about employee engagement. So there are all the parts of the company that are strategic, are really focused on being the best in where they are today, but also investing and identifying those trends which will become important tomorrow. So now AI is a very big thing inside the company, and we are making big investments in that. Beauty tech, you would have read about it if you've gone online, is something that we are really investing on. We now have not just technology in terms of devices. So we are inventing some of the world's most sustainable hair dryers, sustainable hair washing equipment, but we are also doing things like mapping the human face and developing products based on a database of human faces and skin tones and skin needs from around the world. So you can get the idea that this is a company that's really doing well today, but also investing for the future. So that's a little bit about what L'Oréal is, and now to move into my story, which is going to be based in the beautiful country of Indonesia. Since we have people from all over the world joining us, let me start off with what is Indonesia. So Indonesia is an archipelago. It's an archipelago of 17,000 islands spread across 3 time zones in Southeast Asia. The country is as wide as the United States. It is the largest economy in Southeast Asia. So it's the first country that hit $1 trillion of economy in the Southeast Asia region. It's also the 4th largest country in the world in terms of population. So it's 275 million people. It is also one of the youngest countries in the world. The median age of the country is between 29 and 30. So you've got a really large, young, progressive population. It is also the world's largest Muslim country in terms of population, but a very progressive, very inclusive, and very Asian, I would say an Asian style of Islam that lives in Indonesia. So it's all in all, it's a very attractive country. It is today the largest attractor of venture capital funds from all over the world among the Southeast Asian countries, and it is one of those countries which has many unicorns. So my story in Indonesia starts in 2016 when I became the country manager over there. I had finished my term in Thailand for 5 years, and I was transferred as country manager of Indonesia. L'Oréal Indonesia at that time was an extremely well-run business. I, of course, have to say that because the guy who used to run it is now my boss. But jokes aside, it was really a well-run business. It had grown at a very strong rate for the past 4 years. We had very strong scores as an employer of choice. We were gaining market share. We were doing very well in the brand portfolio that we had. We had a manufacturing facility over there. So overall, it was a very well-run company. But at the same time, there was a feeling that Indonesia as a country was at the cusp of a transformation, at the cusp of moving into a new era. So, we would look back and say that this is the time, 2016, 17 was the time when things changed, and it was a seminal moment. It's one of those things where you don't realize that things have changed when you're in the moment, but then you look back and say, oh my God, that's when everything changed. So that was the period. When I took over the company, what were the things that were happening? We were pretty much a traditional marketing company. More than 90% of our budget was spent on television, very little digital. 99% of our business was in brick and mortar, or even 99.9% of our business was in real stores. We had an army of 3,000 beauty advisors who used to stand in stores and sell brands ranging from Garnier to Maybelline to Lancome to everything else. There was an embryonic e-commerce business in the country. Lazada, Tokopedia were making waves in terms of noise, but it was embryonic, and more than 90% of their business was cash on delivery. So you can imagine it was a digital business, but it was all basically, I would say it was a phygital business. People bought stuff, you delivered it to them, and people carried cash. So we used to actually insure motorcycle riders who were carrying in Indonesia millions of rupiah, but maybe thousands of dollars in their bags. And it was pretty much a physical business. So you carried stock, but at the same time, you also carried cash back. Facebook and Google dominated the digital environment, but YouTube was not very big. I mean, viewership of YouTube was in the low single-digit percentages as far as viewership was concerned. It was very, very embryonic. But at the same time, it was also the only country in the region which had 3 unicorns. So you had this paradox in a way that the real world was still living in the physical world or analog world, but at the same time there was this small core that was igniting with digital energy. At the same time, we also knew that China in 2016 had already become a digital powerhouse. More than 40% of our business had moved to e-commerce. It was a very big digital ecosystem, starting from payments to chats to different kinds of business models. Everything was just booming from a digital standpoint in China, and the whole world was looking at that as a tsunami that would wash over the rest of the world. The only thing was, when would this tsunami come? And would it be a tsunami or would it be waves? Would it be waves or would it be wavelets? What would the flavor of that wave be? We knew that this would come, but we didn't know how it would come. And we knew that every country, every consumer would adopt it in their own way. So the first bet that I took when I moved in was to make sure that we were digitally ready. And being digitally ready meant being digitally ready on 2 fronts. First was digital marketing, and second was e-commerce. On digital marketing, we had the innate belief, and we'd seen it happen in many countries in the world, including myself in Thailand, that over a period of time, there is nothing called digital marketing that remains in the organization. Everything becomes digital, and so marketing becomes marketing, and marketing itself becomes digital. But to achieve that end state, we need to build capacity and capability. And building capacity means hiring some really strong evangelists and technical experts to plug them in different parts of the organization so that they become kind of the change agents, the drivers of moving this forward. So we hired 5, 6, 8, 10 digital marketers and plugged them in different parts of the company. Hiring these people is extremely important and very, very, it's an important skill, because you need to pick the kind of capabilities that you need, but at the same time, these are capabilities that might not be completely built for your organization. So you need people who have a bag of tricks or a bag of books with them, but they will be able to adapt those, books for your organization. They will be able to translate them and adapt them for your organization. So that's something which is very important. So you need, yeah, go ahead.
And just a quick question, where were you finding those people? Like, I think it's a very crucial moment to find those evangelists.
So I think
that went a similar
so
change?
there's two things. Yeah, there's two things over here. First is, you need to look for people who are both technical experts and leaders. And a combination of those is often difficult to find. You can find nerds who understand the algorithm very well, but you may not find people who have the energy and the leadership to be able to transmit that whole knowledge to other people. Where did I find those people? At that time, the best place to find these people was in the digital giants, Facebook, Google, because those were the kind of crucibles where these people were being formed. There were a few people available in agencies. We also expanded our net wider and threw it outside of Indonesia, because we knew that the capability was very slim in Indonesia, and we could get these people better or more experienced in countries like China, possibly Hong Kong, Taiwan, etc. But that's always 50-50, because someone coming from a China may not fit in Indonesia, but the person available in Indonesia may not be, suitable enough or good enough for you. So it's a bet. It's a bet you have to make. And in my experience of 13 years of being a country manager and transformation leader and all that, I would say I've been lucky to have about 75% of my bets succeed. But it could be the other way around, and that's a risk that leaders have to be willing to take. So that's about building capacity. And then while we are building capacity inside, we also need to build capacity outside, which is working with the agency. And our agency partnerships are really long-term. I have, in the 13 years I've worked with L'Oreal, I've worked with only one agency network. And it's important to understand that agency networks are now transforming to become networks. And, the larger client you are able to summon capability with them. So you're able to sit with the senior leaders over there, define what capabilities you want, and then they are able to get those people from all over the world. So this was also something that we had, which is our agency team was not just built with people from Indonesia, but we got people from other countries and got some senior agency talent from China, from other places to come and join India and work with us in Indonesia. So that was about building capacity inside and outside. Then next is about growing capability, and that is about training people, investing in them. You can get 5 digital people into the company, but if they continue to feel like they are outsiders that have been plugged into your organization, they will at one point in time, kind of get rejected like an organ transplant. You need to make them your own. So there were a few things that we did. First, most of the digital people we hired were senior, and they were given a seat at the table. The most senior person was a member of my management committee. The people who were working in the divisions were members of that leadership team. So they were given a seat at the table, and the leaders gave them their ear and gave them the authority to speak and gave them actionability. The second thing was L'Oreal had created this global community of digital leaders, and they became part of that community, and that community engaged in regular webinars, regular trainings. There were global meetings or regional meetings where they all went and met this community, and they, not just shared good things, but they also shared their frustration, saying, I came from Facebook where things were so fast, whereas in L'Oreal things are slower, and I need to build pace. How do I learn to build the same pace in L'Oreal? How do I bring that change here? Or what do I need to change in myself in order to be successful at L'Oreal? So there was a whole, building of capability that was being done around that time. One small thing which I'm really proud of is that we built some capabilities which one does not think of as natural capabilities to build in the company. So we were doing e-commerce and we needed product shots. And those who've done e-commerce know that you need product shots in different ways. You need those 360-degree shots. You need shots with swatches. You need shots with, you know, how the color looks on the skin, etc., etc. And all these were not necessarily available at that time because we were also building up this capability worldwide. So I built a photo studio inside the company, bought the equipment, and hired a professional photographer and video editor for the first time inside the company. So we had a studio and a studio operator inside the company, our own. We did not need to rely on an external vendor. We did not need to pay anyone. Everything was, and for those of you who are thinking of doing this, you will be surprised how cheap it is to set up a really good photo studio and hire a reasonably talented photographer these days versus going and finding studios and working with them all the time and booking and all that kind of stuff. So that was something that we did. There's one other story that I want to tell you, which is also very, which turned out to be very prescient. So like I told you, we had 3,000 beauty advisors. And all these beauty advisors were always hired with a proper interview. You know, how do you communicate? What do you know about the category? Can you sell? We were giving them sales training, etc., etc. In 2017, I hired the first HR manager to take care of this community of 3,000 beauty advisors. And I remember I was sitting with her one evening and talking about digital, and she asked me saying, Umesh, do we incorporate anything of this digital transformation in the beauty advisors? And that kind of lit a bulb in my head. And I said, from now on, we are going to put in a digital IQ as a part of recruitment of these beauty advisors. So when we recruit them, we are going to ask them, do you know what is Instagram? Do you know what is Facebook? Do you use Instagram and Facebook? What do you use it for? What kind of posts do you do? What do you think is the benefit of that? So we started kind of identifying those beauty advisors, those who had experience, who were also either using Instagram or Facebook for their personal benefit or even for their work. So, we had this small early band of beauty advisors who knew how to do digital. And then we started training these beauty advisors to create, let's say, beauty looks. So every beauty advisor has a clutch of 50 or 100 or 200 customers with whom they are constantly in touch. A new product comes in, for example, Regina will get a call from her favorite beauty advisor from Tang saying, what, Regina, now I've got this latest lipstick. This I think will suit you. I've got a special offer, come to the store. So they had this clutch that they were communicating with. We said, why don't you start communicating with them using visuals? Do the look and communicate with them. Create your own Instagram page and use that as a method to communicate to your customers, saying, the smoky eye look is now the in thing. This is how smoky eyes are supposed to be done. This is how it looks on me. These are the 3 products that you need. This is my post on Instagram, and so on and so forth. So this was one of those small things that we did that we didn't realize would become very big later on. But this, just a story to talk about right now. 2019, we were doing very well. The business was exploding. We had amazing success. Our transformation efforts were also bearing fruit. I think about 20 to 30% of our media had moved to digital. We still had a small e-commerce business, but it was growing very fast. So you can imagine we had gone from 0% to about 5% of our business on e-commerce. So everything was looking nice and rosy. And we walked into 2020 feeling extremely optimistic. But at the same time, we were reading news about a strange flu that had appeared in China that was going around the world. And we didn't know what was going to happen. And in February, everything hit us like a ton of bricks. By March, the world had come crashing down. And the first thing that happened was all our stores closed down. So imagine stores that were doing 95% of our business just closed. There was no way consumers were going to go. everyone in the world, all the people in the world, especially those who were our target audience and consumers, started wondering, I'm going to lose my job. First, they started wondering, am I going to die because of this thing? Then they started wondering, am I going to lose my job? And the third thing was, I'm now at home. So why do I need beauty care? I don't need makeup. I don't need skincare. I don't need hair care. I don't need anything. So nothing needed. Stop all spending. Stay at home. Lock down yourself and worry about COVID. And that's what happened in the month of February, March. It also took my leadership team and myself and all of us to it took us about a week to really gather ourselves and understand what we were going to do when we were hit with this train that had come barreling at us at full speed. It started Sorry, say that again.
No, I'm just remembering how it was like a
yes, of course.
experience. So
of course, now that I'm saying it, I remember the first few weeks, and yes, it was quite traumatic being the chief executive of a $300 million company and worrying about more than 4,000 people who used to work for us, their health and well-being, their livelihoods, because no jobs. And then figuring out, of course, our larger ecosystem, which was our customers, our clients, our salons, and everyone, what we were going to do with them. So it took my leadership team about a week to gather ourselves and come back up and start with the first belief. Our first belief, and a first, unbreakable belief, is that no matter what happens, the beauty care business bounces back. So we knew that our business would bounce back. We also knew that we had a very strong organization, so we would pivot, we would go into the right direction. We at the same time knew that we knew what we wanted to focus on first, and the first focus was the health and well-being of our people. We wanted to make sure that everyone was safe. We wanted to make sure everyone was locked down and everyone stayed at home. Nobody got in harm's way. And the first thing that the company did was announce that we would be making hand sanitizers. This is a category that we had never manufactured before. It is not, we do not do hand sanitizers, but given that we have the largest skincare and labs in the world, we know how to make it. So it took us, the global company, it took 1 week for us to formulate the product, transmit those formulas to our factories, and in a month we had millions of bottles of Garnier hand sanitizer rolling out of the factory, which was given out free. We gave it out free to all our employees. We gave it out free to our stores, our client partners, our salons. We just distributed it till kingdom come to everyone in the market who needed the hand sanitizers. And you will remember that in the early days of the pandemic, hand sanitizers and masks and these things were in short supply, including non-related stuff like toilet paper, which ran out of the shelves because people did panic buying. But we had enough hand sanitizers to distribute to everyone. So we did that. That was the first thing we did. The second thing was, I got a clear directive from Paris, not that I was planning to do it or not that I had the authority to do it, but I got a clear directive from Paris that thou shalt not fire anyone. So stores are closed, beauty advisors are sitting at home, they are not generating any revenue. We are paying their salaries, but we will not fire anyone. So I was paying everyone their salaries. I was paying everyone everything, but especially these beauty advisors, they were sitting at home and not able to do anything because the stores were closed. But I had a clear directive from headquarters that this is a strategic investment that we have built up over years of investment in people. We are not going to fire anyone. So that was again, when we sent out that message, it was received with a great sigh of relief, especially for beauty advisors. I mean, these are really low level jobs where the women work very hard, and they are in many cases some of the primary breadwinners in their family. But what really happened was within 2 weeks, we realized that all the investment we had done in building this cohort of consumers that the beauty advisors had on WhatsApp, all the digital stuff that we had done with them was something that could be activated. The beauty advisors started asking their consumers, saying, we know you're sitting at home, but you might have run out of your cleanser, you might have run out of your moisturizer. Let me know if you want it. I can arrange for a delivery and all that. And these beauty advisors we worked with our department store partners to organize delivery stuff. We created catalogs that could be transmitted on WhatsApp. And a new jargon entered our lexicon in the first 2 weeks of the COVID, and it was called WhatsApp selling. WhatsApp selling suddenly became a big thing. 3,000 beauty advisors sitting at home did not need to do anything. They just had to contact their core customers, send them the catalogs, send them the videos that we had already prepared for the products, and the registers started ringing. I'm not saying a huge amount of orders started coming in immediately, but there was, rather than being complete stop to the business, there was stuff that was being sold, because no matter what happens, you will still wash your face. You might not use as much as lipstick, but you will still wash your face. Another very interesting thing happened during this time. We realized that we needed to understand what was the consumer mindset, and we started doing Zoom calls with consumers. Now, think about it. In the past, before COVID, when we had to do some consumer research, it needed months of preparation, recruit the consumers, go to their homes, plan travel, or recruit the consumers, call them for a focus group. No, you'll do one in 2 months. One, if you are really, really committed, you'll do one in 3 months. Here, we just had to tell the agency to recruit the right customers and arrange for a Zoom call and start talking to them. First, we started doing one-on-one Zoom calls. Then we started doing Zoom meetings with consumers. And what we realized was we were able to do it, one, quicker, second, cheaper, third, way more effective, because you're recording everything. Everything's being transcribed at the same time. Learnings are being collated at the same time. So everything was happening. And it was being done longitudinally. So you could pick a cohort of 50 consumers, and you could meet with them early May, early June, early July, early August, and figure out how their moods were changing as the pandemic was progressing. One very interesting insight we got was by May, when Zoom meetings and online meetings had become a big thing, consumers started buying beauty care. Why? Because the women said, when I'm on the call, I was on the call and I turned on the camera and my colleague looked at me and said, oh, you're looking very old, or you're looking tired, or you're looking something. And there you go. That was kind of the kind of light bulb in their mind, saying, oh no, I have to use beauty care. And that's when they started ordering beauty care at home. That's where they started doing things at home. I want to take a small step back and talk about one failure that we had in the pre-COVID era, and that was working with salons. So we had great successes in working with e-commerce, with our regular customers and all that. But we also have a very large salon business worldwide. We are the #1 salon supplying company in the world. So brands like L'Oréal Professionnel, Matrix, Kerastase, Shu Uemura, Art of Hair, Redken, Youth for the People, all these are brands that are sold through salons. And salons are very traditional businesses that have resisted change for hundreds of years. So when we first went to them pre-2019 with digital training, we told them we will do video training for hairdressing. So there's no way we can do hairdressing video training. We have to do it in situ. We have to touch the hair. We have to meet the consumer. They almost think of themselves as doctors or dentists, where they have to meet the consumer. And that is true. But at the same time, that business also has to transform. We tried to transform it pre-2019, extreme resistance. We tried to do online commerce with them, and they actually ganged up and tried to boycott us, saying, we'll kick your brands out of our salons and we will not sell your brands if you go online and all that. Now, come Q1 2020, what happened? These salons had a boot on their neck. First, the government said no salons shall operate. Second, even when the salons opened 3-4 months later, consumers were just hesitant to go into a salon. They were afraid that so much proximity would lead to chances of infection and so on and so forth. Now, remember, salons are all small businesses. So if there is no cash coming in, there is no way they can pay their rent. There's no way they can pay their people. All the salon employees, they're not regular employees. So they earn on a daily basis or a monthly basis a very small salary. The rest of it comes by commissions. We actually ran a meeting with salon employees where a couple of salon employees just started crying. And when we asked them, saying, why are you crying? They said, no, things are very difficult for the past 2 months. I have only eaten 1 meal a day because I'm not able to afford 2 meals a day. I don't have enough earnings. So this was the overall state of things. But in about 4 weeks of the pandemic, my team had put together a social commerce plus e-commerce plan for our top salons in Indonesia. And we went to them with that and told them, saying, COVID or no COVID, hair will continue growing. And if hair is not managed professionally, it will not look good. Now, consumers cannot come to your store, but you can take the store to the consumer. So we started things like service at home. We started things like delivery of products at home. We started consultation on the phone using WhatsApp and using the cameras. So there was a whole, initiative that was built around that. And that actually became so successful that it won a global award with Facebook in terms of the way we had built this. But besides that, what we really got with the salons was the space of heart. That, even though I resisted all your initiatives earlier, when I was in trouble, you came to help me. Now you are a true partner and I'm going to work with you no matter what. So there was this thing of, no one ever apologizes, but there was almost an apologetic feeling saying, you know what, you were right, I was wrong, I'm going to work with you. So before the pandemic, we had 90% of our training online and 90% offline and 10% online. Post-pandemic, it moved to 30% offline, 70% online. Today, we do hair coloring trainings for Matrix, which have as many as 20,000 hairdressers dialing in and watching the training online. We call them Matrix M days, and there's like thousands, and I'm not talking 1,000, 2,000, I'm talking tens of thousands of hairdressers are watching this, and this has now become the way of training in the hairdressing industry. So again, a 180-degree transformation that happened at thanks to two things: thanks to a crisis, thanks to our preparedness, and I think thanks to our ability to look at them and say, these are our partners are in trouble, and how can we help them? So that was a big
digitally enabled advisors.
Absolutely. There's one last thing that I will talk about, because I know we are running out of time and I have too many stories to tell, but this one is very important. When the environment changes, when the commercial, trading, digital marketing or all environment changes, regulation changes. The problem with regulation is governments have a very paternalistic attitude. Regulators, FDA, etc., have this attitude that we want to protect our consumers from, let's say, fake advertising or bad advertising or bad products or stuff like that. So they have a very, very paternal attitude towards it, and they are very protectionist, so to say. You can become a victim of regulation, or you can work with the regulators to really shape regulation that both meets their objectives of protecting the consumers and also enables the industry to really grow. So what we've done is in 2017, when digital marketing started really becoming big in Indonesia, we were the first company to go to our regulators and tell them, digital marketing is becoming really big. We want to teach you what is digital marketing. We want to run a whole day course on digital marketing. That will be run by us, by Google, by Facebook. We will bring our agency partners, and we will all come together and run a master class on digital marketing for you. Are you interested in joining? We will host it. It is entirely our expense. We just want you to come and listen to us. And they were overjoyed because they didn't know anything about digital marketing. I mean, imagine the best in the industry offering you free lessons in everything. So that was I think the first step. What that did was, again, it gave us the beauty leader position as far as mind space is concerned. And if, it's like when you have a question on digital marketing, who are you going to call? I'll call L'Oreal because they've taught me, so they will give me the right answer. They know what needs to be done, so they will give us that. We did the same thing with e-commerce. We did the same thing with social commerce. On social commerce, one of the big challenges that regulators have been facing is that influencers, today your influencer can be a 16-year-old girl who's sitting in her bedroom making a video, clocking millions and millions of views and influencing consumers. She does not understand regulation. She does not understand chemistry. She just understands the way the product works. And sometimes she makes claims which are not in line with what the product should be doing. And she runs afoul of the regulation. So it's important to also educate influencers on how they need to operate in this space. So we have worked with our regulators to do the first influencer clinic, I would say. So we invited the top 250 influencers of Indonesia. We invited our agency, TikTok, the regulators, and we ran a master class on being a responsible influencer, responsible and successful influencer for these 250 influencers, where we told them what do you need to do in order for your videos to be most effective? TikTok talked about that. What do you need to do in order to make sure that your videos reach the most number of people and really generate sales? Our agency talked about that. What kind of product shorts, what kind of product benefits really work with consumers? We spoke about that. And then the regulators spoke about what is the right way to advertise, what are the right claims you can make, what are the things you cannot say. And we also brought in people from the Ministry of Finance to talk about things like tax filing, returns, all the usual but very painful stuff that a 16-year-old doesn't know about. So what that did was, number one, it gave us a hugely elevated presence as far as the government regulators are concerned. Today in Indonesia, we could call anyone from the government for any help that we need, any access that we need, because they look at us as a responsible corporate player. But at the same time, we also helped build a more responsible ecosystem of influencers in the country. So that's also something that we've been doing as far as the transformation is concerned. Well, I could go on and on, but I know we are running out of time.
I know there are so many stories. There are a few questions that I thought would be interesting to ask. I mean, it's partly related to what you mentioned before, but one is on that resistance to change. Like, I'm sure with the crisis, with the COVID crisis, that probably, kind of desire to change came perhaps more as a need. But whenever, perhaps now with your current projects, whenever you see that resistance to change, how do you usually manage it and get people unstuck with it?
I think first is to really have, if you believe in something, then you build the right selling points for it. For example, influencer management is a very big topic as far as businesses are concerned today. And how do we get the right influencers? How do we manage the whole influencer portfolio and all that? That's a very big thing. So the way I solved for that problem in Indonesia was to get different parts of the same agency come together and create a new mega structure that would help us build that one. When I took that as a success model to other countries and told them that they should do this, the first reaction was, no, but we don't have these capabilities in the country. So then it was about working with the agency in that new country and showing them how it can be done, showing them the success model of what has been done in the past, being by their side and really understanding what their resistance to change was, and solving each of their objections one by one. One of the things which one of my mentors had taught me all the time, and this was in the context of working with regulators, was that, Umesh, don't ever sit across the table from the regulator. Sit on their side of the table. Only then you will be able to see what they see, and you will be able to solve the problems that they are trying to solve the problems with your perspectives added on top of that. So I've always used that when it comes to handling objections. And then the last point I would say is the whole story of Robert Bruce and the spider. No matter how many times you fall, if you have the perseverance to rise back, and your idea is really strong, you'll be proven right in due course. I take the example of the salon story. The same salons which boycotted us when we did the e-commerce initiative earlier, those salons were lining up post-pandemic to join and become partners with us for the e-commerce business. So,
oh, that's great that they turned around. Awesome. And one more question from Shruti. I think that's connected to your earlier point that you made about hiring IT evangelists to help you transform into a digital business. So apart from IT leaders, which non-IT functional experts did you prioritize as well?
So there were two things. One, and again, I want to clarify over here, when I talk about hiring digital experts, I'm not talking about hiring IT experts. These are people who really understand media, understand media tech, understand e-commerce, understand e-commerce tech, and all that. So those were important people to hire. If I look back in my organizations, there were two other functions which were very important as we transform. First was consumer insights. And again, getting the right consumer insight people with the right mindset to move from a traditional one-on-one consumer or focus group thing to new tools and new technologies like social listening, understanding what's happening on social media and distilling trends out of that. Those are very important kinds of consumer insights people that we need. Again, one of my bosses had said this, we don't need to conduct focus groups any longer. The world's largest focus group is active on Facebook 24 hours a day. We just need to put our ears to the ground and listen to it. But we need people who are able to listen and filter signal from noise. So that was the second very empowering, very powerful hiring that I did. And the third one I would say was restructuring our logistics and supply chain organization, because again, working with traditional trade like convenience stores, department stores, etc., is a different kind of skill, and working with e-commerce people is a different kind of skill. And then when you start your own stores and B2C, that's a different kind of skill. So having people who are able to do that kind of work is very important, and also having the right partners in terms of suppliers, etc., to do that kind of work is also very important.
100%. And I think another one that is also very interesting to cover, that's more from myself. I also wanted to ask about kind of your own mindset, the way you look at change and transformation. You mentioned earlier that you kind of look at it in a way that sometimes a few things might not be making sense, and you can connect those dots perhaps only in hindsight, and looking at transformation as more of a process and baby steps. So perhaps your advice to those who are new to the whole transformation and change game, like what makes you confident in that approach, and how do you make sure that it all works out in the end?
So first thing, let me be clear, I am no Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't have been on this call right now. But let's start off with a few innate beliefs. I think the first belief is that we need to we need to continually understand the consumer and see what the consumer is doing. One example of that is TikTok. The first time TikTok came to make a presentation to us, this was in 2018, 17 or 18. I must tell you, I was quite depressed when I saw the whole TikTok thing, which was those short videos and the, almost, inane kind of stuff that was happening on the platform. And I was kind of thinking, what is this? This is the future of the world. This is so idiotic. This cannot be true and all that kind of stuff. But I am not the consumer. The consumer is a different person, and I realized pretty early, probably in about 3 to 6 months, that TikTok was a thing, and consumers were engaging with it, and there were benefits of that in terms of speed of learning, speed of reach, etc., etc. And we started working with TikTok, and that is another very, very big successful story in Indonesia. So first, always be very close to the consumer. There will be a mass of consumers who are currently in the today, but there will always be cutting edge consumers who will be in the tomorrow. And those are the consumers that we really need to listen to. That's number one. Number two is about curiosity. And it's always important to keep yourself aside and your preferences aside and see what's happening new and different in the world, and what are the things that are really applicable and how things are going to change. You may not become a real big consumer of reels, but if that is the way media is being consumed, then that is the way media will be consumed, and you need to make sure that you are prepared for that one. So having the curiosity and the humility, curiosity to understand what's going on, the gut to understand which one of these changes is really going to be the big one, and then having the humility to say, okay, I'm going to roll back on what I do currently and change to fit this one is very important. On the point of humility, we became very big on TikTok Shop, and I have told that story in another podcast. But that did not happen because I chose to do it. That happened because some people chose to do it in spite of me. When they first said that they wanted to do TikTok Shop, I said, come on, this is not going to be the big thing. Let's focus on the big ones. I didn't say it's not going to be the big thing. I said, let's focus on the big priorities. We have more important fish to fry. 3 months later, I realized that this team had continued to work on it, and it had become a meaningful thing. It hadn't exploded, but it had become a meaningful thing. That's when I said, yes, guys, I was wrong. You were right. Let's go behind this and make it big. So having the humility to say, yeah, I made a mistake, is also an important thing.
Yeah, 100%. Very interesting. Thank you so much, Umesh. I'm sure we could talk for hours. I know you have a lot of various stories. But for those who are joining in currently or later on, please do go on Tiger Hole to listen to some of Umesh's podcasts. There are a lot more stories and a lot more insights out there as well. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time. I know you perhaps didn't sleep the whole night because of your flight, but thank you so much for making it on this webinar.
Just one last point for everyone who's listening, in case you have any questions. You can find me on LinkedIn and drop me a message. I'll be more than happy to connect with you and answer your questions. I love to talk about, these days, especially about project management, about tech implementation, working across cultures, working across generations. One of my team members, it was my birthday recently, and right after the birthday, one of my team members looked at me and said, Umesh, you're not old. My mother is the same age as you are. And I looked at her and said, I don't know if you meant that as a compliment or not, but so working across generations is also something that I'm really interested in. I'd love to have a conversation with anyone who's interested. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. And as a last note, as we mentioned earlier, this is all part of our ECLC community, Executive Council for Leading Change. Please do have a look at all of our upcoming webinars and roundtables, and I'd love to see more people join in and into this world of change and transformation. Thank you so much. There will be a quick poll coming in while you're leaving, and have a great weekend, everyone, wherever you are. Thank you. Thank you, Umesh.
Thank you very much.